Hello, so I am making this video to display what I've done for my 61B gold points. So I'll just go ahead and run this and then I'll explain how I did it. So as you can see, there's the ship here, which is controllable by my arrow keys, and it also is affected by the gravitational field. So as you can see, I'm not pushing any keys and it's orbiting around Sun. And then over there, what happened was that I pushed a key and it launched out. So what's pretty cool about that is that it's kind of how space shelter satellites actually they launch off from Earth. They just orbit around the Earth and grab some speed, velocity, and launch off. So that was pretty cool, in my opinion. But that was not the only challenge that I did. In fact, I started with this one, which is if I click, then asteroids pop out. And so I started with this, and then what happened was that I finished. So then I did the ship challenge, and then I still had some more time, so I decided to do the collision one. So again, I'll display that. And if you were confused about what happened there, was that the asteroid is actually quite heavy, so it really influenced the pull of the planet. So in fact, I just kind of put in random values that just made it a little more fun to play around with. And if you're wondering why wasn't the ship collision working properly, and that's because we're not really given the proper radius. So what I did was that I just kind of guessed and checked and found a decent radius that works for planets, but that doesn't work for ships, and unless I hard code that, that wouldn't work. So, anyways, that was just kind of there for fun, but I guess my main one is the clicking and adding more objects. So I'll display that once more since it didn't really come out. If I run this here, if I click, it releases asteroids, which of course are coming into the sun, and then through all the gravitational fields they just scatter. At the same time, I can also push and hold, which causes quite a bit of commotion. Again, the collision is also experimental. I'm running into bugs with the radius, of course, which is an issue considering that every planet is different size. So sometimes you see it go through, and what happens is that when it seems like it's going through the planet, in fact, it's just going around it. But just the distance that it's going around is quite slow. So that's what's happening there. Anyways, that's enough about what I did. I'll explain how I did it. So when I started with the project, or when I started with the asteroids, I would have to make the array list mutable. So for that, or the array mutable, and for that I ended up switching off to an array list. And an array list, I just imported it using Java, the util.ArrayList. And I converted all of the code to using an array list. I even converted one of the functions such that it returns an array list instead of returning an array. It was the read bodies function. So then I can add to the array list as I please. Then I use the mouse listener, which is already built into std_draw to listen for mouse clicks, and then I'm checking within the while loop while mouse is pressed, just add a new asteroid, and the asteroid's initial velocity, mass, and all that was just done through guess and check for something that wouldn't lead to a very lame demo in a way. I did try it with actual values, and that just was kind of boring in all honesty. So I gave it those values. And in addition, for the collision, what I did was I basically checked whether I calculated the distance between the centers of the objects, and if that center was less than the radius of each of the object, then there was a collision. And then I used the formula for elastic collisions to determine the velocity, x and y velocity of each object. Then for the ship one, I used the built-in Starship image, or the GIF, and then using that, key listener was also built into std_draw, so I used the std_draw's key code, and I basically checked the key codes of each arrow key, and then if it was pressed, then I would increase x or y respectively by a set amount. So what that also led to was that led to smoother movement instead of very choppy movement where I would, or sorry, I didn't update x and y, I updated x and y velocity. So that led to smoother movement. at the same time, if the key wasn't pressed, then I would slowly decrease the momentum or the moving velocity in that distance to just account for other forces. Now, I know that in space there wouldn't be such forces, but if I continued with that, the ship would just fly off screen. So for that reason, I did that. We'll just call that other extra forces. But anyways, that's pretty much what I did. I decided I might as well just do all the challenges. I was getting a little bit bored. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope what I did is substantial enough.